The epic of the great unsinkable ship is an infamous one. We know the tale of the Titanic as a tragic accident as well as a remarkable story. Some remember the event simply as when this great ship was brought down on its maiden voyage from Southampton, England to New York City. Others remember it as the heartbreaking story portrayed in the blockbuster film. Many people are deeply fascinated with this horrible incident and continually want to learn more. The tale is still being told from the depths of the ocean today. In her day, the Titanic was the largest, most luxurious ship afloat, an icon of the age of ocean liners. The $7.5 million ship set sail from Southampton on April 10, 1912, heading for the United States. 4 days later, the Titanic struck the submerged bulk of an iceberg that only poked slightly above the surface of the ocean. From 11:30 p.m. on April 14th until 12:20 a.m. April 15th, the massive ship sank, her stern famously rising into the air before slipping beneath the waves. Over 1,500 people perished, only 705 people survived. Since the Titanic's sinking, there have been many attempts to locate her final resting place. In 1985, Robert D. Ballard discovered the ship resting over 12,000 feet beneath the surface of the ocean. Using sonar, metal detectors, and remotely controlled submersibles, he believed in the idea that the wreckage is a gravesite, and consequently left a plaque on the site asking people not to remove any artifacts out of respect for those who died.
People forget that after the Titanic crashed to the bottom, about a half an hour later, all the people that were in the water were freezing to death. It took about 30 minutes to die in that cold water, and those that didn't have life jackets then came raining down. Hundreds and hundreds of bodies came like rain and landed all across the debris field of the Titanic.
Many, like Ballard, believe the best way to show respect for the tragedy's victims is to leave the site undisturbed. Others, however, encourage removal of artifacts from the wreck as a way to immortalize the victims and share the stories of their lives. Some artifacts, like letters and other personal effects, are even supplying surviving relatives with new information about their family's past. Many families simply want to learn more about their relatives, and a last letter retrieved from the bottom of the ocean can give closure. However, as more and more artifacts are retrieved from the wreck, it seems like the general public is never satisfied with what it knows, constantly wanting a more personal, intimate look into the Titanic and all the stories she embodies. As the Titanic sank, she ripped violently in half, her bow and stern hitting the ocean floor nearly a half-mile apart. Between the two halves, much of the contents of the ship is spread in a vast debris field. Objects like wooden furniture, dinnerware, and suitcases are simply lying on the seafloor, making it relatively easy for salvagers to find and remove artifacts. RMS Titanic Incorporated started their research and recovery expeditions in 1987. By 2004, after 7 trips to the Titanic, they had recovered over 5,500 artifacts. After a long fight, RMST Inc. was granted rights to the wreck in 1994 by the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Virginia. Granting rights to the single salvage operation was supposed to prevent destruction of the site and preserve the ship. The belief was that any artifacts that weren't recovered would be lost forever because of the harsh conditions of the ocean environment. However, while the ship is covered in thick ropes of rust, it appears not to be any immediate danger. Ironically, these salvage attempts themselves are damaging the wreck site. Scientists believe that within the next 50 years, the ship will collapse into the ocean floor because of extra damage caused by visiting submersibles.
They dropped chain that is now rusting. They've dropped big bags. This is all left by the salvagers. And right next to them are where the humans came to rest.
RMST Inc. has taken many an opportunity to capitalize on its rights as a proprietor. Pieces of coal recovered from the ship, like the one encased in this necklace, are being sold to fund the company's future expeditions. In April of 2012, RMS Titanic Inc. took the centennial of the disaster as an opportunity to put up a vast collection of Titanic memorabilia up for auction. The collection included personal items belonging to passengers, video footage of recovery efforts, and to one lucky buyer, the salvage rights would give them exclusive ownership of the ship, provided that they can care for it. Of course, not everything recovered from the ship was sold off. Some is still available for the general public to view. Artifacts are spread among museums from Las Vegas to Cleveland to Amsterdam. In these exhibits, one can view people's clothing, silverware, and dishes used on board, money, and pieces of metal taken right off the ship. Despite the clear laws regarding salvage rights, the question of who really owns the recovered artifacts still burns between salvagers and the relatives of Titanic's passengers. While salvagers desire to sell the memorabilia for a sizable profit, family members would like to have their heirlooms returned to them. This split in opinions is making it difficult and prolonged legal debate.
And it's the fact that these are personal possessions in the main. Okay, there are pieces of the ship and things like that, but things like bracelets and stuff which can be traced back to somebody, I think it should be given back to the family that owns it rather than auctioned off.
Controversy not only surrounds what is brought up from the wreck site, but also what goes down. Since its discovery, Titanic has become an undersea tourist attraction. One company, Deep Ocean Expeditions, did not have any problem with taking advantage of the public interest, winning the privilege to take tourists on an expedition down to the sea wreckage in submersibles. For $60,000, groups of people interested in the tragedy, marine aficionados, and academics are briefed on a dive and then taken down to view the wreckage for about 8 hours. One couple even took their marriage vows in a submersible hovering just above Titanic's deck. When asked if they felt like they were disrespecting the resting site, they responded by saying, "If you were to be married at a church, you have to treat that with reverence because you are near a graveyard too." After almost 200 dives, the company made one final voyage for the centennial of the sinking before ending the trips, saying that it was time to let the Titanic rest in peace after the death of the last remaining survivor. Part of the Titanic's legacy are dozens of Titanic societies scattered across the globe. While some support the recovery of artifacts, others are strictly against the exploration of the great ship and her remains. The Ulster Titanic Society has spoken out against recovering the artifacts. They argue that the Titanic is not unique since she had two sister ships, and one can find many same objects from this time period elsewhere. Therefore, they believe there is no good reason for excavating the gravesite. The issue of the Titanic's future has passed out of the realms of archaeology into that of public controversy. Fueled by recent rediscovery, people are becoming more and more interested. Even the 1997 blockbuster movie hinges on the recovery of artifacts and James Cameron's wreck footage. Now, 102 years after her sinking, choices will have to be made about the Titanic's future as she slowly rusts away. Our society has a habit of constantly asking for more, and we are not necessarily aware of the controversy that surrounds even the things that fascinate us the most. However, we will need to find some way to balance our curiosity and desire to own a piece of history with respect for those who lost their lives. No matter how we handle her remains in the future, the Titanic has been immortalized not only in the artifacts she left us, but also in the hearts and minds of all who hear her story.